The Mickey Mouse Club, an American variety show that ran from 1955 to 1959. Then a reboot that ran from 1977 to 1979, only to be rebooted once more for the Disney Channel between 1989 and 1994. All three incarnations of the series are known as the starting point for a number of well-known actors and musicians, such as Annette Funicello from the 50s run, Lisa Whelchel, who went on to play Blair on Facts of Life from the 70s incarnation, and then of course the 90s version of the Mickey Mouse Club just gave us way too many to mention here. With that much talent over the years, it's not surprising that some may have slipped through the cracks. Today on Music Corner, we're taking a look at an underrated but still solid cover album of rock and rockabilly classics from Mousketeer Darlene Gillespie, Darlene of the Teens. The year was 1957. A year prior, Elvis Presley had burst onto the national scene. A year before that, James Dean's Rebel Without a Cause captured the angst of post-war teens. Teen culture was an untapped market for Disney, and while Annette Funicello would see the most success in music out of all of the Mouseketeers with her 1959 hit Tall Paul, it was Darlene that started things off. Darlene had sung 2 songs for Corky and White Shadow in 1955. Then in 1956, she released a single with fellow Mouseketeer Tommy called I Am Not Now and Never Have Been in Love, backed with Do Me So. After that came a few records of re-recording popular songs from Disney movies such as Cinderella and Alice in Wonderland, but with rock and roll reaching a fever pitch all across America, Disneyland Records released Darlene of the Teens. Darlene of the Teens could easily be dismissed as just a cover album, but true to Walt Disney's nature as a perfectionist, the album went above and beyond that, and part of the reason is that it was produced by legendary music director Tutti Camarata. Salvador Tutti Camarata's background was as a trumpet player, arranger, composer, and record producer. He had worked with giants of the music scene like Duke Ellington, Bing Crosby, Benny Goodman, Ella Fitzgerald, and Billie Holiday. With such an impressive resume, it's not surprising that Walt Disney came calling in 1956 to pitch the idea of starting a record label, Disneyland Records. Tutti would be the music director and producer for the label, and would eventually build his own studio out of a former auto repair shop on Sunset Boulevard, which became Sunset Sound Recorders. Sunset Sound Recorders went on to be the studio for classic albums such as Prince's Purple Rain, the Rolling Stones' Exile on Main Street, the Beach Boys' Pet Sounds, and the first 2 Doors albums. Over his 16-year partnership with Walt, Tutti produced over 300 albums. Now with some knowledge of what went into making the album, let's take a look at the songs themselves. Let's just see what Darlene and Tutti Camarata have in store for us. Track 1, Sitting in the Balcony.
Just sitting in the balcony, just watching a movie.
Originally written and performed by John D. Loudermilk under the name Johnny D in January of 1957, the cover version by rockabilly legend Eddie Cochran in February of 1957 is probably more well known, hitting number 18 on the Billboard charts. Eddie even performed the number on the October 10th, 1959 episode of Dick Clark's Saturday Night Beach Nut Show. Darlene's version is a bit more polished than Eddie's, as it's given a big band horn arrangement during the break. Darlene gives a legitimately good pop vocal, but loses a bit of the playfulness in Eddie's version. While I prefer the more raw and stripped down version by Eddie, Tutti Camarata's pop arrangement does work pretty well, even if it's a little unexpected given the time period to hear a song about making out at the movies from a female singer. I guess Eddie and Darlene both missed that PSA before the show.
Hello, young lovers, whoever you are. We're glad the love bug caught up with you, but we must insist that you do not allow his bite to affect your conduct while in this theater. Public demonstration of affection will not be tolerated. Enough said?
Track 2, Butterfly.
But I'm crazy about you, you butterfly.
Butterfly was written by Cal Mann and Bernie Lowe. Mann had been a comedy writer for Danny Thomas, while Lowe had been an orchestra leader, so it's not surprising that the song fits so well on an album produced by Tutti Camarata. The song was originally performed by another rockabilly legend, Charlie Gracie. The arrangement is near identical to Gracie's original, but Darlene's polished vocal gives it a slightly different sound. As with the Charlie Gracie's original, the backup vocals are tight and keep the song moving, never becoming overbearing. Given that Lowe and Mann would go on to write hits for other teen idols like Bobby Rydell, you can see why Darlene fits so well on Butterfly. Track 3, Come Go With Me.
I need you, darling, so come go with me.
Come Go With Me was written by bass singer Clarence Quick for his group the DEL-VIKINGS in 1956, and recorded in the basement of Pittsburgh DJ Barry Kay. The song went to number 5 on the Billboard Pop charts and number 2 on the R&B charts. There are certain songs that are so perfectly recorded in their initial version that no cover ever does it justice. And that's the case here. The arrangement, the sound of the DEL-VIKINGS vocals together, the funny little scream on the line, "You never give me a chance," lightning in a bottle. Interesting to note that it was a teenage John Lennon singing Come Go With Me that prompted a teenage Paul McCartney to want to join his group. With all that said, Darlene's version sounds okay, has a good arrangement and vocal, but you just can't top the original. Track 4, Love Me Tender.
Love me tender, love me sweet.
Love Me Tender started life as a Civil War ballad called Ora Lee, which had original lyrics written by W. W. Fosdick, but more importantly a melody written by George R. Polton. The song became a big hit in all the ways songs became hits prior to records, through sheet music, barbershop quartets, and glee clubs. A little over 90 years later, Ken Darby adapted the now public domain melody with new lyrics, giving his wife Vera Mattson songwriting credit. And through a publishing deal with Hill and Range, then new rock and roll sensation Elvis Presley got writing credit, which was part of the deal whenever he decided to record a song.
Love me tender, love me sweet.
The song was a massive success for Elvis, earning him a gold record, a #1 hit, and even had his first movie retitled from the Reno Brothers to Love Me Tender, due to the song's popularity. Darlene copies the sparse guitar and vocal arrangement of Elvis's recording, with only slight variations in phrasing, which all comes together as another strong performance by Darlene. Track 5, Too Much.
Honey, I love you too much. Need your loving too much.
Too Much was written by head of Republic Records Bill Beasley and his wife Joan Norris, not Bernard Weinman and Lee Rosenberg, as it states on the record. Weinman was a financial partner of Bill Beasley, and on the initial release by bluesman Bernard Hardison in 1955, the writing credit read Weinman and Norris.
Honey, I love you too much. Need your loving too much.
When Elvis showed interest in covering the song for his second album, Bill Beasley's rather shady secretary, Lee Rosenberg, put Weinman and Rosenberg on the label, allowing them to obtain the copyright to the song when Elvis's version went to #1. Unfortunately for Rosenberg, his share of the publishing money went to Elvis. Darlene's take on the song is an adequate cover, but lacks the power and confidence Elvis gave it.
Honey, I love you too much. I need your loving too much.
Darlene's arrangement uses a horn section with a solo played on a trombone, and while it's serviceable, it lacks the manic energy of Scotty Moore's solo on the Elvis version. The story goes that Elvis's version was in an odd key, which was uncomfortable for Scotty to play, resulting in a rather bizarre solo. Scotty was fully expecting Elvis to call for another take, but he just smiled at Scotty and called that take the master. While Darlene's version doesn't have the excitement of Elvis's version, it's still a good song choice for her, and the more restrained pop vocal and arrangement is on par with the original version by Bernard Hardison. Track 6, Don't Forbid Me.
Well, don't forbid me to hold you tight.
Don't Forbid Me was written by Charles Singleton, who had written Strangers in the Night for Frank Sinatra. The song was originally sent to Elvis, but the demo ended up getting lost at his house, and Elvis didn't get to hear it, and it ended up in Pat Boone's hands. Elvis did share what he might have done with it during the $1 Million Quartet session in December of '56, and even as an off-the-cuff jam session recording, he shows how much better it would have been in his hands. Pat Boone is kind of boring to my ear. I guess I'm in the minority on that, as Boone's version hit #1 on the Billboard charts in 1957.
Don't forbid me to hold you tight.
Darlene does an excellent job with it. Part of that may be my own bias towards Pat Boone, but her vocal has a bit more energy to it. The arrangement is about the same as Boone's version, but with a faster tempo, which I prefer. Elvis gave it a quicker tempo as well. Man, I wish he had done a professional recording of it. Track 7, Rockabilly.
Rockabilly, rockabilly, rock, rock, rock.
Rockabilly was written by Eddie Dean and Woody Harris, and first recorded by Guy Mitchell on March 7, 1957. Within a month, it was #10 on the Billboard charts.
Rockabilly, rockabilly, rock, rock, rock.
Discovering that it was a big hit surprised me as a lifelong Rockabilly fan. I had never heard the song until I got a copy of Darlene of the Teens. Her version actually became one of my favorite tracks on the record. She really shines with a rocking arrangement and a vocal reminiscent of some of the female Rockabilly greats, especially Janis Martin. Guy Mitchell was a pop singer, making pop versions of country songs, and hit big with renditions of Ray Price's Heartaches by the Number and Marty Robbins singing the blues. There are a few pop artists that attempted to cross over to rock, but were either too old or too well trained as singers to really capture the rawness of the new style. Mitchell falls into both these categories with his version of Rockabilly, while Darlene gives a more youthful approach, with less instrumentation and a slightly slower tempo that really helps the song come across. Give me some Rockabilly, Rockabilly, rock, rock, rock. Track 8, I've Never Been in Love. Not to be confused with I've Never Been in Love Before from Guys and Dolls, this song I believe was written especially for this album by Guy Hemrick and A.J. Moroda. Hemrick went on to write songs for the Beach Party movies of the 60s, with such classics as A Boy Needs a Girl and Beach Blanket Bingo. Together, Hemrick and Moroda had written What Good Does It Do Me for singer Linda Lee. I've Never Been in Love seems not to be a very well-known song, as I've only been able to find Darlene's version, but it's an excellent piece. It has a mellow Chet Baker feel, while mixing in that doo-wop style backing vocal reminiscent of the Five Satins or the Moonglows. Track 9, 99 Ways.
There must be 99 ways of losing the blues that I got from loving you.
Like Butterfly, 99 Ways was written by Cal Mann and Bernie Lowe. Darlene flips Charlie Gracie's Butterfly over and covers its B-side.
There must be 99 ways for losing the blues that I got from loving you.
For me, the arrangement on Darlene's version is preferable to Gracie's original. Darlene drops the high-pitched tinkling piano for a guitar-driven arrangement and sings with a snappy swing vocal. Track 10, Young Love.
Young love's first love.
Young Love was written by Rick Carty and his girlfriend Carol Joyner, and Rick had the first version of it with his group the Jiva Tones on 2 separate record labels, Stars Records and RCA.
Young love, first love.
Rick Carty did not get a hit with his version, but the Crew Cuts, Tab Hunter, and Sonny James all hit #1 with their versions. I'm most familiar with the Sonny James version, which has a country feel to it.
Young love.
and most likely the version Darlene was familiar with. The arrangement of Darlene's version takes a slower country feel than the Sonny James version, and takes the drums down a bit in the mix, allowing the bass note lead guitar riff to be more prominent, giving it kind of a Johnny Cash on Sun Records sound. Track 11, Teenage Crush.
They call it a teenage crush.
Teenage Crush was written by Joe Allison and his wife Audrey. Joe went on to write a number of classic country songs, including He'll Have to Go for Jim Reeves, and Live Fast, Love Hard, Die Young for Fair and Young. The original version of Teenage Crush came out in 1956 and was by Rita Robbins, who unfortunately didn't see any chart success with it.
They call it a teenage crush.
A year later, teen idol Tommy Sands reached number 2 on the charts with his version.
They call it a teenage crush.
Tommy Sands would have another connection to the Mousketeers, as he would go on to star alongside Annette Funicello in 1960's Babes in Toyland. I'm sure Darlene was most familiar with Tommy Sands' version of Teenage Crush, but her cover sounds a bit closer to the Rita Robbins original. Tommy Sands' rendition is a little peppier and has a swing pop vocal that wouldn't be too out of place with the Rat Pack. Darlene's vocal is more subdued, as is the music, and the song works better because of it. After all, it's supposed to be about a teenager lamenting about how hard your first love can be. And to close everything out, track 12, 7 Days.
7 days, 7 days.
7 Days was written by Carmen Taylor and Willis Carroll, who wrote a number of songs for Atlantic Records, including Little Mama by the Clovers. 7 Days was originally recorded by Clyde McPhatter, shortly after leaving his group The Drifters in 1955.
7 days, 7 days.
The arrangement of Darlene's version makes it clear that the cover version by the Crew Cuts is what was on everyone's mind. The song ends up being a little bit too pop sounding and loses some of the edge that Clyde McPhatter gave it. Darlene still delivers a great vocal, and even in a slightly watered down version, it's still one catchy song. Darlene of the Teens didn't chart, nor did its 3 singles, and sadly Darlene hit a bit of a rough patch. Darlene was popular throughout the run of the Mickey Mouse Club, but by the second season, Annette Funicello was becoming a bigger star. Darlene found herself regulated to playing Annette's friend in serials like The New Adventures of Spin and Marty, and even lost out on the chance to play a similar role when Annette got her own serial in 1958. When the Mickey Mouse Club ended in 1959, Disney didn't renew her contract. In 1962, she had one last acting role, a bit part on an episode of NBC's National Velvet. With her acting career over, she went to college for nursing. Unfortunately, a back injury ended her nursing career. In 1973, Darlene decided to give music another try and started her own label, Alva Records, and released a couple of country singles under the name Darlene Valentine. If you like the sound of 70s country, like Barbara Mandrell or Loretta Lynn, you may like Darlene Valentine's work, especially Both Feet on the Ground. Alva Records didn't seem to last very long, sadly, and the late 80s would see a lawsuit with the Disney company over royalties owed to her due to the Disney Channel re-airing the Mickey Mouse Club, as well as their failure to promote her as much as they had Annette. The lawsuit didn't sit well with her former castmates, and she found herself banned from participation in the 40th anniversary special of the Mickey Mouse Club. Darlene had a few legal issues arise in the late 90s and early 2000s, but out of respect, I won't go into that here. Through the ups and downs of her career, Darlene always gave 100%, and I hope that shining a light on her music will inspire you to check out an underrated talent. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed my review of Darlene of the Teens. If you'd like to be kept up to date as to when I release a new video, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and if you really want to be notified, hit that bell as well. I'm Brian, and I'll see you next time on Music Corner.